Hello, I'm Tyler Smith, and thank you so much for watching Rediscover Movies on YouTube. This is one of several reviews of newer movies available on our YouTube channel, along with various trailers for movies that we are streaming on the Rediscover television platform right now. Today we're going to be talking about Adam McKay's Don't Look Up.
Wakanda forever! Wakanda forever! You can't handle the truth!
What a gift, don't you think, from Mr. Wallace to the world?
Well, it's nice to see you too.
Obi-Wan, we meet again at last.
Eddie, is there anything you can't do?
So Don't Look Up is a satire. For those who don't know, Adam McKay started out 20 years ago making ridiculous comedies like Anchorman and Talladega Nights, movies that I enjoy tremendously. And then in 2015 he decided to get a little bit more serious, still making comedies, but making comedies with a very specific purpose. So he made The Big Short in 2015, he made Vice in 2018, and now he has made Don't Look Up. I have not really responded well to his more serious movies because though he does still have some of his comedic sensibility, there is clearly an anger underneath what he is doing, which is fine, but I think it means that he then lacks a certain curiosity about his subject. He's only interested in lecturing, and it kept me from really liking Vice at all, despite some good performances. In fact, I'd say I mostly hated that movie. So when I had heard that he was making Don't Look Up, which is an allegory for people's reaction to climate change, I rolled my eyes and thought, I don't think I'm going to like this, which is not a good attitude, by the way. I think it's always good to try to have an open mind when seeing movies. So I did watch it, and I liked it more than Vice. It is a long film. It's about 2.5 hours, and it has an amazing cast, including Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence and Cate Blanchett and Tyler Perry and just a lot of people. And it is a very broad film, which is not a bad thing when talking about satire. But in this case, the broadness of what he is doing, I think, undercuts what he is trying to do. I think he's trying to make very specific points about, climate change denial and that sort of thing. But the humor is just so unfocused that I think that some of his points don't really land. And in fact, some of the jokes that are made just seem really juvenile, but not in the Anchorman kind of way, but in the high school freshman thinking he's being clever kind of way. For example, there's a scene where a pop star talks about a charity that she is supporting, and it is a manatee sanctuary. And the moment I heard that, I thought, like, oh, manatee sanctuary, I get it. You think you're being like really clever about how vapid this pop star is, and there's a sanctuary for just kind of this ridiculous animal. Nothing against manatees, of course, but clearly that he just thought that was a very funny idea, but it just seemed like something that a kid would come up with. Similarly, there's a character, the president, played by Meryl Streep, and there's a moment where she is lighting up a cigarette behind, right in front of a truck that says flammable, and so it's meant to show like, oh, look how reckless she is. And it's just very obvious. I'm okay with broad comedy, but when the visual gags or the verbal gags, when they're just so obvious, but they clearly think they are very clever, it's something that I have very little patience for. The film does work sometimes, though. I did find myself invested in the main characters and their goal to like get people to listen to them about this comet that's going to come and hit Earth within like 6 months. So I was invested in that, and so I shared their frustration when people didn't listen. But once again, the way in which people don't listen feels less like actual reality and more like the way Adam McKay sees people he does not agree with. and it just feels very one-dimensional in that regard. When the film, oddly enough, when the film is serious, I think that's when it works best. Towards the end of the film, when our main characters, spoilers, start to realize that no one's going to take them that seriously, they decide to make peace with their families, and those scenes are actually very meaningful and they really work for me. So I do wonder if maybe the worst thing Adam McKay could have done with this film was make it a comedy, because I think the serious stuff works. So it's definitely not a film that I recommend, despite it having a really great cast. There are a couple things that are funny here and there, but for the most part, I think the comedy just really doesn't work. A satire whose comedy does work, in my opinion, is Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator, which came out in 1940, and it is Charlie Chaplin satirizing Adolf Hitler and, to a lesser extent, Benito Mussolini. So it's some pretty heavy stuff there, but it is his first sound film, and it is often very funny. It really points out the ridiculousness at the core of most dictators, even though obviously there were horrendous consequences to Hitler's rise to power. It's a wonderful blending of humor and social satire, and I really love it, and I think you will too. It is currently streaming on Rediscover Television, so be sure to check that out. And that's it, my review of Don't Look Up, a film that I mostly, if not entirely, don't recommend. But maybe I'll like the next one. So thank you very much for watching Rediscover Movies. We'll get you next time.